In this video, we're going to take a look at a little bit different type of font and convert it for use here as a Rhinestone font. And the font name is called Chuck Chillout. So go ahead and select that font, and you can just Google Chuck Chillout. It's a free font. But let's just go ahead and type out a phrase. So there is our phrase typed out. Go ahead and yeah, you really can't see it because it's so tiny. But we'll just make it a little bit bigger. And see, this is the nice thing about using these fonts is you could type out any word, any phrase that you want. So we'll just choose, don't quite have rhinestone spelled correctly. So we'll go ahead and make that change. Okay, so that takes care of that. What we're going to do is we're going to center justify this text. Something like that. Now right now this is very, very large. So we want to probably scale it down to something a bit more manageable. Now we don't really have any idea how large these holes are. And so that's the next thing that we need to kind of figure out is how large those holes are. So what we need to do is come over to our Node tab and choose this break rhinestone text function. That will take each one of those holes and now they're their own individual entity. Now if we look at this hole right now, it's 0.203. Now just because I've been working with rhinestones for as long as I have, I know that I want them to be about 0.12, 0.13. So right now they're 0.2, which means we could probably scale them down to almost half that current size. So I scale it a little bit and grab now it's 0.14. So now we're getting pretty close to where we want. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use a couple of features in Easy Stone. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a dot and we're going to copy it over here. That's going to be kind of our control dot. Now we're going to go to our Select tab and choose Mark Selection. That marks this object. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select all of our rest of our text here. And I want to pull out just the big dots. But first thing I'm going to do here is go over to our Blend tab. Or no, excuse me, back to our Select tab. And what we're going to do here is we're going to choose, based on the size of our control object that we marked, we need to create a selection. So we'll hit Create Selection. And what it should do is it should give us a selection of all the dots that match our control dot. So let's pull those dots down. And notice you see that some of the dots were selected, but it doesn't appear that all of them were. And what we'll find is oftentimes with these types of fonts, the little dots, even though they look the same, microscopically, they're not exactly identical in the width and height. And that's what Easy Stone says. Identical to the exact width and height of the control dot. So what we did was we added a tolerance field. Okay, now by default, when we enter in a value, it's based on millimeters. So now we can say, based on the size of the control dot, plus or minus a half a millimeter, select everything that matches that. And now you'll see, when we pull this out, that only the tiny dots, everything else is selected. So now I can resize those dots, just those ones, exactly to what I want. So in this case, I want my 10 SS stones to be 3.1 in size. So when I hit Resize Replace, now all of those dots have been precisely resized to the exact same width and height. So now we have all the little dots. So we'll move that control dot up there, go to our Select tab, choose Mark Selection, and then again we'll do the exact same thing. We'll just select all of our dots. We'll say, make me a selection based on my control dot. So actually we have to mark that selection. I don't remember if I did or not, but we'll just do it again. And then hit Create Selection. And then you'll see that it only pulled out the little dots. And then all I have to do is change what size I want for my 6 SS stones. And I'll come over here back to the blend tab and choose resize replace. And now all those dots will be the size of a 6SS stone. Alright, so then the next thing to do is decide, well, what color do we want our fonts to actually be? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, how about we do this? How about we take our small dots here. So we're just going to drag this one up. That'll be our control dot again. So we'll mark that one. We'll make a selection. And we'll, based on size, we'll create a selection based on size. You can see all of our little dots have been selected. And let's give it a color. So back over on our blend tab, we could choose any color we want. But I'm going to go with dark cyan for our little dots. And choose this option to rename and fill. And you can see all those change color. And then we're going to go ahead and use that as our control dot there. So we'll mark that selection. And this time we could choose by fill. So we hit create selection and back over to our blend tab, and let's go with topaz and choose rename and fill. And now you can see we have a 2-color rhinestone font. All right. And then the final step then would be if we wanted to convert this into a simulated rhinestone. All we have to do is choose no fill, like so. Select all of our stone colors and choose simulate. And it says there's no fill selected, so each object will be replaced by its corresponding rhinestone. And we'll just hit OK. And just like that, we now have a nice simulated rhinestone font. And we can go ahead and send this to the cutter to cut this design.